Welcome back to Cards and Comics. Today I'm going to be talking about my 1990s Raw Ken Griffey Jr. collection. Again, this is part 2 of my Raw 90s baseball card collection. And I'll be doing my football collection next. But these are just my Griffey cards. And these are tiered out in basically by price. And so these cards here are the cards that would be considered to be not, super expensive. So they're like, that $100-ish and below type card. Now, some of them might run a little higher, but it's kind of how I think about them. So, first up is a Showstoppers green. I guess they're all green. Skybox Premium. And there you go. So, I showed this off. This is a pretty recent pickup. They're kind of cool. They have a little sparkle in the background. And again, not a lot on the pop count or census report. So, it's one of those cards that I'm hoping to eventually look at getting graded. But again, not a huge pop count there, so I can't really tell what it's worth. Next up, Stadium Stars. So this is from Finest. I believe it's 98 Finest. So this is, one of those really cool looking inserts that has kind of a holographic background. You get the stadium, so you see the little balls in the sky. So again, it's not a hugely expensive card. And again, it has to tend to be worth really a lot of money. So it's one of those cards where I'm thinking about getting graded, but it's got the protector on it. And I've had that conversation with you guys a lot about the protector definitely causes a lot of condition issues with the cards. So that's why it's kind of in my bottom tier pile here. Now, the next cards are just there because they, to me, they're great cards. And I believe that they're worth grading. But in recent times, the pricing on these have calmed down a little bit. Here is All or Nothing from EX 2001. And again, one of the cooler looking insert sets ever made. There's a gold version of this as well. That's a little harder to get. This is the regular bronze or copper. And it's worth getting graded. Obviously, with all these die cuts, that's super condition sensitive and foil. So again, it's one of those cards where I need to really look it over to make sure there isn't any hidden damage that would cause it to grade like a 6 or 7, because this card needs to be at least a 9 to be worth sending it in right now. I mean, unless I get to another $18 special. Next up is Field of Vision. So this is from Pinnacle. This is the artist proof, which has both the defects and kind of the foily look into it. So it's a cool card. I think this came from a box set, if I remember, but not a hugely hard card to get. You see these pop up quite often on eBay, but they have a really cool effect to them. And so they're worth something, but again, they need a grade pretty high to be worth sending in. Next up is a card that I've showcased a little bit in recent times on my channel. And this is the 97 Finest Ken Griffey Jr. Gold Embossed. So in the tiering, so the way the tiering works in these cards, you've got the gold refractor, the embossed refractor. So this is like the embossed gold or rare card. And you can see it's got the little die cuts on the top. Makes this card really condition sensitive. Doesn't have the protector, and you can see on the back that embossing. So again, raw, it's not worth a ton comparatively. I don't say a ton, but it's not a very expensive Griffey card compared to others. It really needs a 9 or 10 to be worth grading, and I got to just make sure that there's not any damage on that card. And next up is a card that I've talked about it, a little bit on my Instagram. This is from 2000, EX and Exceptional. So there's two versions of this. There's a red and a green, I believe, or maybe a blue. I remember there's 3 versions, but I know that there's, one of them is I think close to like maybe 400. So there isn't a super rare one that I'm aware of. But this is not a $9.99. Again, first year as a red kind of card. So that hurts the value. But these are basically jambalayas. So, because companies don't really understand what makes people like cards, they like consistency sometimes. So they renamed the set from Jambalaya to Exceptional, but basically it's the same design. It's the kind of a odd looking Christmas light effect foil or on the background, or slightly defectsy background on a die cut card. So it's basically Jambalaya, but it's Griffey is a red, so that always hurts the value. It's not named Jambalaya, and it's numbered pretty highly at 9.99. So it's a card that would eventually need to get graded, but again, it's a card that needs to grade a 10. Here's another Field Vision. Again, artist proof, so I have 2 of those, so send the best one in. 94 Flair Hot Gloves. Again, not a hard card to get. Very popular card. This card sells a lot raw. And so it may be a card that I, unless it just, I think it's going to grade a 9 or 10, I just don't send in because it's definitely a card that people like, but it's easy to damage. But definitely looking at maybe getting this one graded if I think it's going to 9 or 10. But again, not as expensive as you'd think. Another card that's not as expensive as you think is this. I believe this is 96. Let me see here. Yeah, I think it's 96. Sorry, 98. I can't even read it. 98, Bowman's Best, Atomic Refractor Mirror Image. So, Griffey and Ben Grieve, and on the back is Tony Gwynn and Vlad Guerrero. So 3 out of the 4 cards players are Hall of Famers. It's the cool fisheye superfractor looking card. These are somewhat rare, but again, combo cards like this aren't as popular. This card isn't as expensive as you think, even though it's got Griffey on it. And again, they did those inverted ones where the rookie was here and the player was here, the veteran, and those are actually really rare and have gone up in value quite a bit. So I'd love to find one of those, but I don't have it on this card. So again, not super expensive, but again, I love refractors, so I definitely want to get that one graded eventually. Another card that, sells okay is the Team Pinnacle, King Griffey Jr. And again, this is cool because, it's a dual combo card from 97 Pinnacle. But again, it hurts a little bit because, if this was, Frank Thomas or Barry Bonds, and Griffey would definitely be worth more, being Ellis Burks. Not so much. And again, I don't know, because of printing technology or just, whatever, they could only duplex one side. So at least Griffey got the duplex. But it just, it's worth something. Again, these are cards that are worth like $80 to $100 in a lot of cases, but not, top tier, like some of the other cards I have. Ticket studs. Again, this is a cool insert. I really love this insert when I was a kid and seeing these cards. I thought they'd be worth a little bit more when I looked at them secondary market. They don't sell that often, but they're not worth this ton. And again, if you unfold these, you really hurt the value. So just a cool insert, but not a ton of value there compared to some other cards. Again, like some other cards in here, like Production Line. Again, this card is very cool looking. It does have print lines, or I guess we would call refractor lines. So this one looks pretty clean on that. Numbered out of 1028. So it's, not super high, but not super low. And again, a card that will eventually get graded, but it's probably not top of the list for me right now. 98 Finest Refractor Griffey. Again, this is the base refractor because you can see the back isn't shiny and it doesn't have the metal on the back. It's got the protector. So again, this card is not as hard to get as it used to be, and has gone down in value since a couple years ago. So I'm thinking it's something that I'll get graded, but I would definitely like to wait for a special to grade some of these cards in this pile here that I just showed you. And we'll go through some of these a little quicker. So Thunderclap, again, I've got 2 of those. One of them has a little bit more damage on them from Fuller Ultra. So hats off from Leaf. Really kind of cool card. It looks kind of has that felt looking appearance to it. And they are numbered out of 5,000. Kings of Swing. Another acetate card. And again, if it gets a 10, it's worth some good money, but again, it needs to be a 10. Press Proof from Studio 97. These are not numbered, which hurts the value. They're very cool and shiny looking, but you can get these sometimes for like $60 on eBay, so they're not super expensive. Soul of the Diamond from Metal Universe, I believe 98 Metal Universe, if I was looking at it right. Let me see here. Oop. Nope, looks like 99. Really cool. I've got this card already graded, actually, so that's another point in its non-favor, is I already have this card in a PSA 9 or 10. So that's going to fall down the list. Here's some refractors, 2010. I really need to look at it. I think it has some surface scratches, would prevent me from getting it graded around 1. And then here is the Wrecking Crew from 96. It's 1 in 72. It's worth getting graded. It's a pretty rare refractor, but again, I need to look at it and see what it looks like from a surface perspective. And then last but not least from this pile, this is from 97 Fleer, and this is the Tiffany Encore. So Encore is like a subset. And then you can see it's Tiffany because it says Tiffany right there. So these were pretty interesting inserts. They were pretty rare, comparatively, as a parallel. So, I eventually get it graded. Low pop count on those. So that's pile 1. Now pile 2 is a little bit more expensive. And so these cards are definitely worth over $100. And there's cards that would definitely be graded, but when I look at the price of grading, how many cards I can send in each order, let's say if I send only 10 to 15 cards per order, especially depending on the value, this is still not in the number 1 tier. But here is the non-protector refractor from 98 Finest, and this card has gone up in value a little bit as people realize these are hard to get compared to base, and they have that cool double-sided refractor look to them. So again, this is definitely one that I will send in, but it's in my tier, I've got 4 tiers. It's in tier 3 of 4. So, but definitely one that I will eventually send in. Here is the Tiffany, from 1996. So this is the 96 Fleer Tiffany. And again, the base cards. So I always showed the extra points card, and this is the base card. Again, I think even raw, this card is over $100 just because it's cool. Parallel. PSA 10. This card would be pretty big. I see, one little white spot on the upper right corner here. I think that makes it a 9 max, so that's why it kind of falls down the list a little bit for me. Same way for this card. This card is a really cool card. It's a 1998, I believe. Leaf Fractal Matrix Z die cut. I believe like the Z die cut golds are there's 400 total maybe. So there's not a ton of them. And they have a cool intricate die cut with a cool foil background. But again, being all this die cut foily stuff, I got to make sure there's no damage on the card that I can't see from just visible eye. And this set's so confusing that no one really knows what's rare in the print runs. So this is one that even if I get it graded and people won't even know what it really means as a rare card, so it hurts the value a little bit. Now next up is a card that a lot of people have been looking for, which is the Pinnacle 97 Pinnacle. I believe, 97 Pinnacle. This is the Museum. So they look gold. And the artist proof that year are green. So this is the gold. And it's just, which is the Museum. And it's really, really, really nice. So, one couple sold recently. And the market for Griffey is cooled down a little bit. So that is something that, from a cost perspective, I got to look at. But this card has a lot of people who want it just because it's such a cool looking card. Bowman's Best Cut, again, I think it's one of the cooler looking inserts ever made because the die cut's on the side here. But it's not gone up in price as much as I thought it would for how cool the card is. It's like a 97 Bowman's Best Cuts. So I'm just going to probably keep a hold of it and maybe get it graded again on a special. Now this one is definitely one that probably should go in either round 1 or round 2. This is the All or Nothing Gold. The only problem with this card is, and I'll have to look to see how it compares to my other one because it's a little off center. And I was looking at this card the other day because I was making a video about, or just a post about this card, and I'm like, oh well, I've got, this one and the regular, copper one, and the one thing I did notice is that the centering on it, yeah, you can see it. This gold one is off center, so you can see how thin that left border is. So again, that's why you got to be careful with these cards. Is even though you think sorry, I'm moving cards around to pull that card out. What the card is, and that it's rare, and what it could be worth. But this card is off center, and I think it would definitely get hit. This card could get an 8 because of that centering. So even though it's the rare gold version of this card, it's off center. So it makes the card harder to grade for sure. 99 retro. So this is the base card, and it's the parallel from the base. And again, these are numbered out of 250, so it's a good low number card. Only issue with this card is this bottom left corner. It's got a white tip. So again, it puts it into that category of it may just get an 8. And is it worth full grading fee for an 8 versus waiting for that special? And then last but not least, the Z Team Zenith. One of the coolest looking insert sets ever made, in my opinion. This is from 1996, I believe. And the back has got almost like a metallic foil finish. Front is one of the cooler Dufex front finishes ever made. Just an overall beautiful card. 9s and 10s of this card sell really well. And so unless I find something just really weird, I will definitely have it in round 1 or round 2, just because it's one of the iconic insert sets of the 90s, in my opinion. Now, next up are cards that are in that $200 to $400 range, or mostly in that $200 to $400 range, that I think are 100% slam dunks to get into either round 1 or round 2. But we'll start here with the 1999 Topps Chrome. I believe it's 99. Yep, 99 Topps Chrome refractor. So again, one of the OG refractors that have Griffey. It's just a left center, top to bottom, left to right. You can see the wider border here and here. So again, this card might just 8 because of that. So it's still worth sitting and grading, but again, if this card was perfectly centered, it would hit that upper tier versus I call the second tier, because that card would be a slam dunk again. It's one of my favorite Chrome cards of Griffey because it shows him in his full batting swing and pose. It's just a beautiful card, just a little off center. But again, it might swing into that 9 slot as well. So that's the risk. Now, this card, I don't see anything really wrong with it. I've looked it over a few times, and it's the 97 Pinnacle Green Artist Proof. So we saw the Dufex or the Museum Collection, which is gold, and now we've got the Artist Proof, which is green, and the greens were rare, hard to pull. So there's a lot of things going for this card. This card has made its way around a lot of King Griffey Jr. Facebook posts as being, one of the cooler cards that people have just started kind of getting into, these artist proofs. So definitely a sub 1 or sub 2. Next one is the Griffey Jr. 99 Upper Deck game worn jersey card. This card used to be $5 to $25 back in years ago when I first started collecting Griffey. This was something that was not expensive, and now it's gone up to a couple $100. People are getting it signed by Griffey, and that's causing people to get confused that there's an autograph version of this card, and there's really not. So they pay a lot more money for it, only to realize it was an aftermarket auto, which I don't really like too much. There's a big debate on Griffey chat boards right now around getting rare inserts autographed by Griffey, which I don't support, because to me, I like the cards, like they were issued out of pack. I don't like them to be altered or changed, because I enjoy the card for the card's sake, not because it has an auto on it. But it's the same conversation in comic books where people get, Avenger 1 signed by 20 people and it just ruins the cover. I'd rather just have the cool cover and have those guys sign comic books or reprints of those comics versus the actual comic himself. Same for this card. I much more enjoy it just by itself. But the fact that it's gone up to the level of value it has is surprising me, actually, because to me, it's not a card that I originally thought was going to be really expensive. When I was putting more Griffeys together, I thought it was going to be one of those $20 to $25 cards, and now it's a couple $100. Next up is the Griffey Bowman's Best. I believe this is 98 or 99. I forget. I think it's 90. I think it's 98. I'm always wrong when I look at it up. Yeah, so this is 99. 99 Bowman's Best. So again, this is, again, Griffey, Mariner. He definitely has, trying to show you the number. So these are numbered out of 400, which is pretty dang good for Griffey, in terms of numbering back in the day, because remember, not all cards were numbered. And again, this is the base card. And there is a atomic that's numbered out of 100. It's not atomic, but it's definitely a very shiny, cool looking card. If it 10'd, it would be worth quite a bit of money. As an 8 or 9, it's not quite as much. Now here is the molten metal. What do they call these? They're basically platinum portraits, but they don't call them. I think they call them something else. But anyway, this is the King Griffey Jr. version of it. Beautiful card. I mean, obviously, they're basically platinum portraits. They're not quite as rare as the platinum portraits, so they're not worth quite as much. But as a 9 or 10, this card's worth quite a bit. Card does have some damage on the upper left corner. So, to me, it's going to stay in its holder like this. Do that little bit of damage. So, it's probably not gradable. It's definitely a 7 at max. Probably for me. So, I wouldn't want to get graded just to get a 7 on it. Or maybe even a 6, so it's probably going to stay raw, but it's just a cool card. Clout 9, this card is probably one of the most intricate looking cards that's out there for Griffey, outside of the embossed refractor. Again, this is the artist proof, Clout 9, so this is like a subset. So yeah, just, one of those really, really cool cards from 97 Pinnacle. And it just doesn't look like any other card out there. I mean, it's almost like 3D. And again, they just went way overboard on just how cool this card is. It has been selling pretty well, and I believe a 9 just sold for a couple $100. So, it's definitely worth getting, because I think it's definitely going to 9. It's a nice looking card. And then last but not least, in tier 2, which I think is kind of like all these cards should go if they will grade at least an 8 or 9, is a card right here that's going to grade, probably not great. It's off center, left to right. It's the 95 Finest Refractor Griffey. This is a placeholder card for me, honestly. I think this card's going to 7 or 8 max, maybe even 9 OC. And I just wanted to have one. I got this pretty cheap because it's centering. So he's my placeholder until I get my final one, which hopefully will be centered, and hopefully a PSA 9 type of card. So, but it's a great card, and a lot of people love this year's refractor. It was very undervalued for a long time because people really hated the 94 set. 95 set kind of fell into it. And then 96, they revamped the whole program with the golds, and that really changed the Finest, landscape for a few years. And so that card kind of fell through the cracks. Now, my Griffey cards that are 100% going to go in round 1, because they are my best cards, the most valuable. And to me, the ones that, are, to me, the most iconic, because they are, when I look at my Griffey collection, these are the cards that I want to keep adding to my collection, because they are, to me, important as well. 96 Topps Chrome Griffey Refractor. Not much to be said about this card. It's the OG original Topps Chrome Refractor. These do green. This one does not look to be green. It looks to be well centered. I don't see a lot of issues. There is one of those chrome dimples in it right there. So I don't know if that's going to make the card 8 or 9. But to me, it's worth getting graded no matter what. It's just an awesome card. One of my favorite cards I own. even raw. Now, next up is a card I've talked about quite a bit. I was my national pickup of the year. It's the Griffey Crusade from 98. It was SGC pre-graded. Again, number at 250. At 8.5. I don't know. Maybe if I rub, a cloth across the surface, maybe I can eke a 9 out of it. But either way, it's worth getting graded, even if it comes back at 8. Just one of the greatest Griffey cards in the 90s, in my opinion. I mean, there's a purple and a red version as well, but just a beautiful set and one of the coolest looking Griffey cards ever made. Next up is the 98 Fuller Metal Galaxy. So this is the PMG. So this is what the PMGs look like from that year. So this is a subset card. There's a base card in this card, which looks more like kind of a cartoon Griffey. You can see 37 out of 50. Just not a lot of these cards around. It's got surface damage right here. You can see right there. See that little, almost like something dropped on the card. So to me, that's an auto 6. So that card is probably between a 5 and a 6 grade. So it's not a high grade, but to me, it's so rare and people love this card that it's worth getting graded still. Next up is Cut Above EX 2000. Again, one of the best insert sets ever made, in my opinion. There's just so much going on: die cuts, embossing, foil, just all technology into one card. Beautiful card. I got to look over these little tines because they can have damage on them. They could be like a little crease, a little line, and you got to make sure if it's a part of the card, is it an actual crease. It's just what's going on with that card, because you got to make sure everything is perfect, because these cards are very contention sensitive. But again, unless something's just horribly damaged, it's going around 1. Next up is just the Man regular card. Again, the regular cards are numbered out of 500. You can see that, and obviously the refractors are numbered out of 75. So the refractor is like a god card amongst Griffey collectors, but this card's still worth some good money, a couple $100, and so I think this card is a very nice card. So it's going to go into round 1, as well as the linchpins. I've showed this card off a few times. I've got a Jeter 9. I think this card is just as nice. And again, it's worth getting graded, even if it comes back at 8. The linchpins, Griffey. One of my favorite cards of all time. Next up is the Platinum Medallion. Griffey from Fuller Ultra. I believe this is I think this is 99. No, this is 2000. So again, the last year for Griffey as a Mariner, 2000 Fuller Ultra die cut Platinum Medallion edition. And again, these are numbered out of 50. There you go. So they used to be out of like 100, and then this year they were out of 50. Just a super rare card, basically the same level as a PMG. One of those cards that has to go. Even if it 8, it's worth getting sent in. It's got a little edge damage right here. You can see it. So again, I think it's one of those cards that has to go in an order, because it's such a rare and valuable card. And last but not least is a card that, again, was one of my big Griffies for my 90 from this year's National. It's a 90 SP Chirography Griffey Auto, what a lot of people think is like his best auto from the 90s. Debatable, but it's beautiful. And obviously, if it gets a 10 auto, it doesn't matter if it's an 8 or 9. 10, definitely a huge premium, but it's all about the auto. Once that auto 10s, you can have an 8, 9, or 10. It's still worth getting graded. So one of the best autographs ever made right there. King Griffey Jr., 98 SP Chirography Jr. So that is my tiers I'm going to be sitting in. So that was all tier 1. They're all going to go no matter what. Then I've got tier 2. And again, I got to just figure out how many cards are going to be in each of my submissions to determine, which cards go where. But kind of how split them up amongst either cards I really love or value. Let me know in the comments what you think, which cards I should send in first. If I get a 10 or 15 card, first submission into PSA for the end of the year, that's probably my timing. I'm going to probably try to time this around December. to send my next order in. I'm waiting for an order right now. Probably 10 or 15 cards. So I'm trying to get all that tier 1 in round 1. Maybe a couple of tier 2 in, but I feel like everything in tier 1 is definitely going to be sent this year. So that's it. That's the video, guys. Hope you enjoyed my raw Griffey collection and what I'm going to do from a grading perspective. Let me know your favorites, and I'll see you next time on Cards and Comics. Bye.